On any Costco aisle, next to a name brand item, is often one with a slightly lower price tag and the label Kirkland Signature.
In the industry, Kirkland Signature is seen as really a shining example of what a retailer can do with its house brand.
Today, the Kirkland brand accounts for around 1/3 of the company's sales. But the decision to create just one private label 30 years ago was risky, especially in a world where the most successful ones were divided up by product type.
We were kind of flying.
I think that's a big point, and it still plays out today generally for especially early companies, whether or not you're like a high-tech startup or even just like a normal, like, let's call it professional services business or traditional services. It's like, do you want to start by creating a painting company that paints every building, you know, commercial, residential, this style, that style, etc.? You can, but then it's really hard to differentiate and build any sense of brand loyalty. And of course, both today and in the past, people tend to really engage with the concept of brand loyalty, whether it's because they like the quality, whether it's because they like the experience, whether it's because they like what the company stands for, whatever. But the ability, especially when you're early on, which is one of the interesting pieces, because they had this, you know, they did all this pretty quickly back in the day. But the ability to have a lot of focus early on to enable customers to associate your brand with your product, right? Google didn't have 100 different offerings to start. It was just search. Therefore, whenever you needed to think search, you thought Google. And that's, of course, a huge brand benefit to them.
Right in the face of that success story.
Here's the case study on how Costco went against industry standards and in the process created a negotiation tool that would forever change big box retail. When Costco first started in 1983, the premise was simple. Carry a limited number of name brands in each product category, but sell a lot of them.
One of the significant disciplines of our business is the limited selection.
We weren't going to carry all the SKUs the other retailers carried. We were only going to carry the highest quality goods.
4,000 items as opposed to 140,000 items.
And this is a big thing that people don't think about, because obviously, again, another case of, well, shouldn't we just be everything? Shouldn't we just have all 140,000 items? It's like, no. How about you have the 40,000 items that people want? How about you have the 40,000 items that people actually use regularly? Or even if it's not, again, you want to cater to the most regular purchases, but even for the occasional shopper that maybe only buys stuff there once in a blue moon, you want to make sure that their experience with every single product is perfect. Because God forbid someone only buys one thing and then that one thing is horrible. What do you think they're going to talk about at the next family function? Oh yeah, Costco really screwed me over. I can't believe X, Y, and Z. It's like, exactly.
Items. Because everything that's presented at Costco is presented pretty big. Hits you right in the face whenever you walk in there.
But just a few years into this, data showed that the price of these name brand items were going up, even while the cost for brands to make them were going down.
Every year they had to raise their price to continue to satisfy Wall Street.
But Costco co-founder Jim.
And this is a big thing that we see in the difference, you know, I'd say the biggest difference between private and public companies are who they're accountable towards. And Wall Street is accountable to the senior people that own, you know, the companies and the firms who make the argument, you can debate whether it's true, that their job is to look after the best interest of the stock. Because, of course, if they're a public company and there's just regular everyday investors, often referred to as retail investors, if they're involved, then, well, shouldn't we keep making the stock go up? We owe it to our shareholders. It's like, nah, you just want the stock to go up because you owe it to you. You're prioritizing you. And hey, fair. If that's your position, that's what you want to do, great. But now you can see, if we take the consumer out of this, you know, the everyday person who does benefit when the stock rises if they own it. But let's be honest, how many everyday people really own material amounts of stock? Yeah, you can mess around with 10 shares here and there, but you don't care about the moves when it's only 10 shares, really, right? These people can hide under, you know, the guise of, well, let's just keep increasing prices to add more share value, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, how about we focus on bringing value to our customers, and then that'll drive share price naturally versus trying to squeeze them and use every argument from inflation to competition to this to that to justify it. Because there's always two places you can eat a cost. You can have the customer eat it, or you can have the company eat it. And subject to the margins and the greed of the company, they can choose to eat as much or little of that as they choose.
Cynical saw an opportunity.
We were seeing articles being written about what was happening with private label.
This 1991 Forbes article in particular outlined how consumers in Europe were turning away from name brand items and instead buying products manufactured by stores directly, known as private labels.
He wrote a whole bunch of his observations on this article and then asked all of his executives to kind of initial it, to acknowledge they had read it. It's this moment where you can see his wheels turning about, look, their price increases are our opportunity.
That opportunity came down to profit margins. While retailers typically mark up name brand items anywhere from 24 to 30%, Costco had a strict maximum markup of 14%. But with a private label, Costco could now control more of the manufacturing costs for a lower starting price. So,
We allowed it, private label, to take 1 more percentage point higher in a markup.
the private labels quickly started piling up.
So a big thing here, which I really enjoy, is the fact that it's the same products, right? Let's assume quality is the same for all intents and purposes, although the quality definitely can change and often degrades over time. But assuming it's the same quality product, this just goes to show you that even if you're selling tomato paste or beans, you can do it different. You can save money, you can make money, you can offer, and this is like you, the customer, not like you, the bean, you, the customer, in terms of like Costco. If you're trying to think about what you're trying to build and what you're trying to offer to your customers, notice they could easily go, well, other companies already sell beans. It's like, yeah, but they sell beans worse than us. We can sell beans better, meaning the way we have manufacturing, the way we have sales, the quality, the consistency. Again, you can come up with a whole series of reasons why our stuff is better. But the fact of the matter is, you can still innovate on some of the most basic things in terms of your offering to your customer, centered around one of the most common foods, purchased, one of the most saturated markets in food and consumer goods and all this stuff. You can launch your own brand if you just do it properly and associate quality with it.
Yeah.
We had Chelsea toilet paper.
Clout detergent.
Traditions, Pinnacle.
We were just making up names as we went along.
But then something happened that would change everything.
And I was in one of our warehouses down in Los Angeles, and I asked the warehouse manager, did you get the new legal tablet that we had in private label? And he said, no, I don't think so. So we went to the section and we had it under the Pinnacle name. So I showed it to the manager. I said, well, here it is right here. He said, I didn't know that was our label. And it was like a bell. Hell, if we don't understand within the organization what we're doing with our label, how are the customers going to? We decided we need to get one name.
Consolidating all of these labels on
This isn't too surprising. I don't remember like the years of all of this, but think of all the different products that, Honda makes, or Toshiba, or there's tons of Japanese brands that do this, and just brands generally, but there's so many brands that associate like 10,000 Yamaha that have like 10,000 different products, but because the brand itself is associated with quality, it's not to say that every product is a 5-star, 10 out of 10, whatever, but it just goes to show that every product at least has the consumer is going to give the benefit of the doubt, assuming they have a brand they don't know and a brand they do know, and your brand is associated with quality. You're going to get a much better benefit of the doubt than you would, of course, if you're just one random brand amongst many. Like, why should they trust you? And clearly, if your brand across products, or again, this is one of the reasons why if you sell a bunch of things, everything should be kind of great, because if someone comes in and buys one thing, they're making a product assumption, a categorization about everything else. The biscuits were horrible. What are the odds this is going to be good? It's like that association is a big risk. But notice Costco already has a focus. They already kind of did the precursor to this when they kept their items down to like 40,000 versus 140,000. They are used to screening for quality, and now they get to apply that to make revenue. Like, what an interesting turn of events.
Under one brand would go against every proven best practice.
Retailers tend to not use one private label brand because they're afraid that if you have a bad experience with one item, it might translate across the whole store.
There it
They
is.
don't trust the brand.
That brand risk.
In the golf ball, they don't trust the mixed nuts.
You look at Sears,
Bingo.
which was a successful retailer at the time, they had multiple brands that were their store brands in different categories.
You can't argue with the success that
That's another quick thing. It's very easy to make strategic decisions based off of what other companies are doing. But as you know, lots of companies that do things by status quo ride that status quo all the way into bankruptcy. Right. So it's one of those, just because it's being done away does not mean it's the best way. It means you should probably question why it's being done that way. And is it being done because of intelligence or ignorance? Right. Are there learnings here, or is this they just put a patchwork solution and now by thinking about it, we can come up with a better way? Maybe they're not good at product selection, so they had to diversify amongst a couple different brands in order to make the cleaning supplies different from the cooking supplies, different from the whatever. It's like, that's a total option. But Costco, clearly, again, you also have to think about the layout of the store. To me, I think about it at least. If you're at the mall or Sears, there's 50 different departments. Costco may have different departments, but those departments are structured as like zones, right? You just walk from zone A to zone B, and now you're, instead of being surrounded by clothes, you can still see the clothes, but now you see all the products. Like, everything is associated with everything else because it's, yeah, you're in a different department, but you still feel as if you're in one warehouse controlled by one, governing body, one entity, one product selector.
that Sears had. But that one warehouse manager who couldn't tell me where the tablets were was an illustration of where you could go wrong in something like that.
And then the question was, what would that name be?
We thought Costco was not the right name to put on it because we did so much business with other people, and we decided on Kirkland name.
At the time, the headquarters were in Kirkland, Washington.
And we promptly moved the home office to Issaquah.
Very nice.
So nobody could spell Issaquah anyway, so we'll just keep Kirkland. And we've used that same label ever since.
Over the next few years, Costco slowly rolled out the Kirkland name.
I do remember when Kirkland Signature Shampoo came out.
It was the first hair care that we did. And then we had some vitamins that came out shortly after that.
These products and everything that came are very popular. I'm sure, anybody watching this, you've bought something Kirkland. All of my golf buddies, when they don't feel like chucking Pro V1s into the fucking river, they go and buy Kirkland signatures. Or, there's hats and there's, slides and there's golf bags and there's so much. I'm a golfer, so I naturally think of like that kind of stuff. But it's like, they have so many good products. It's like, clearly this is a shining example of what product selection, what knowing your customer, what associating positive brand value with, like all of these, it's pristine, right?
That
Today, Kirkland has over 350 products across a variety of categories. But the company still operates with a limited selection in each of these, what the industry calls a limited SKU environment.
I think the limited SKU environment is a very misunderstood or understood secret of a lot of things about Costco, including private label.
When a new Kirkland item hits the shelf, that category becomes even more competitive.
If you're a supplier at Costco, it's kind of existential. It could reduce your sales. It could kick you off the slot entirely. So it's a real moment of head-on competition for a supplier.
it's an $80 billion brand, so it drives a lot of sales. Nobody wants to be that dramatically higher priced than them.
I see it as a
Right there. That's another great thing, because they introduce, basically they're competing with their own customer, right? In terms of the distributors on their side that are bringing them all the product. Now, the nice thing is Costco has cultivated demand, right? They're a marketplace functionally. On one side, they have all the distributors and people that want to sell their product that are more than happy to allocate to Costco. Why? Because Costco has people that come in and spend money. Like, people don't go to Costco to just browse generally, right? They go to Costco and they buy a couple different things, and those couple different things are bought in bulk, which means there's a nice little price tag. And oh, we want to be the wine that's bought in bulk. Why not? But now Costco comes out with its own brand. Now they're competing with you. If their stuff's good and their stuff's cheaper, well, wouldn't you buy it? Like, if you were your customer, wouldn't you buy it? It's like, okay, well, now you've got a real dilemma here, right? Because now you either have to improve what you're building, you have to, stop selling at Costco. But again, they help you sell product. They're not competing with you to try and put you out of business as far as that goes. They're just doing their own thing. You just happen to be, you're in competition with them. They're not in competition with you, which is probably the worst case to be in, because all they have to do is keep on living. You're the one that has to try and justify, they took 20% of our market share. It's like, yeah, they did. Make better wine and offer it at a cheaper price. Now, part of this, again, big companies have benefits that small companies don't, etc. So there are definitely some little companies that I'm sure have gotten hurt because of this. But if we're talking about like the big competitors, the ones where they're trying to like really think about margin at scale, it's like they're faced with a pretty big dilemma on how to manage prices, how to manage quality, and how to, contend with functionally a competitor living next door to them.
Tremendous negotiation tool.
One of the clearest examples of this leverage is Kirkland diapers.
Costco knew that they wanted to have a Kirkland version of a diaper.
But because of its limited SKU environment,
We weren't going to carry both Huggies and Pampers. We were going to carry one.
Oh, another, that's pretty intense, man. Limited SKU environment. You won't even have two of a thing. Like, I didn't even know that piece. I like the idea of limited SKU because, to me, honestly, what it makes me think of, classic founder brain, is startups and minimum viable products. Because functionally, minimum SKU, they're trying to focus on minimum SKU, which the other part of that sentence is for maximum value. Remember, they're not doing it for a charity. They're doing it to make money. So they're thinking minimum SKU because they're like, we want to be able to have a 98% conversion thing in this category. And we don't want to put the 96 because we can go get a 97 in another category. So our standard is only 97% amazing stuff. So even if you're a 96, you don't measure up compared to everything else. That's, again, a problem for the average distributor or supplier for this. The suppliers that have been providing, this stuff for Costco, because they're forced to contend with this, again, even if they don't want to. But the thing that I love is that effectively it's an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, because what they're doing is, what are the most used or high value features, functions, or in this case, offerings, products that we need to offer as quickly as possible, because that's what our customer is most likely going to lean into. The only difference is, rather than doing this for a piece of software and then, working to build on it from there, they're just doing it by product category. And obviously they're already going, but at the time, remember, they were building a brand. So as they went and did all these pieces, they had to continue to grow and continue to focus on, developing this high quality expectation and realization across all of these different offerings that they were making. And making it limited makes it, I don't know if it's easier is the right word, but it makes it more conducive to having your customer actually see the quality that you're putting out there. So I think it's obviously a good strategy. That's why startups and small businesses and everybody use it.
Brand and the Kirkland signature.
to see who might make the Kirkland diapers, Costco approached two market leaders, Procter & Gamble of Pampers and Kimberly-Clark of Huggies.
There was a series of negotiations. Kimberly-Clark agreed.
And although Costco says Kirkland manufacturing negotiations are separate from conversations about shelf space,
There's always been only Huggies diapers and Kirkland diapers on Costco shelves for many, many years.
It was decided on the basis of who came in and presented the best deal for the diapers.
even after a product is established, Costco buyers continue to monitor that category.
Who
Our
presented the
buyers
best
are
deal?
very
Who gave
aware
them the
of
most
commodity
money, the
inputs,
most fair,
the
blah,
raw
blah, blah.
ingredients that go into something.
Better
They know
terms.
everything.
And this knowledge can lead the company to change its Kirkland vendors. Recently, Costco shifted to the Cuties manufacturer, First Quality.
We felt like we could produce a higher quality product at a lower price for our members.
There it
Having
is.
not that many products on shelves compared to other retailers is a huge benefit with Kirkland because they can be very strategic about the fact that there's only a few slots. It allows them to dictate what they want for their shoppers.
With Kirkland's name on hundreds of products, these negotiations are happening on almost every aisle of the warehouse.
When I look back at that Forbes article, one thing that really struck me is, wow, brands really had a chance to not charge more than they needed to give retailers kind of an in to create these really successful private label products. But that's ancient history. It's too late now. Consumers again have really turned to store brands.
While national brands are still a bigger industry than
I
private
think
label.
consumers have turned to quality more than anything. It used to just be, the whole quiet luxury. You don't know the brand, but the shirt is worth $400, blah, blah, blah. It's like that shifted. I think it's been shifting, but in a similar kind of direction as far as, I don't really care if this thing says Louis Vuitton on it. Don't get me wrong, there's all the Instagram people that do, but that's such a small subset of actual society. Most people don't care that there's this Louis V bag if a bag that costs 1/100th as much and is X times durable. It's like, yeah, that's what they're going for. That's what they're shopping for. And these are the decisions they're going to make. And guess what? Kirkland happens to check all those boxes. Therefore, put it in the cart.
In 2024, sales for private labels like Kirkland grew about 4 times faster than the national brands, hitting a record high. And with $86 billion in sales last year, Kirkland is now a bigger brand than Procter & Gamble and Kraft Heinz.
Is it the most significant thing for the company? I'd certainly say it's up there with the top 3 or 4.
But analysts say Kirkland's success is hard to replicate.
There's a few retailers that have gone to one private label. Not many, but a direct competitor like Sam's Club. More recently, 2017, they went to Members Mark, which is their private label brand.
I'm guessing they got that from us.
100% they got that from you. And this is the beauty of direct competition, meaning you can be, and I'm a Sam's Club fan and a Costco fan. I go to, whatever's close. But what I love about this, because it's such an argument I always get in with founders that are super worried about competitors. It's like, your competitors don't matter. You can put a Costco next to a Sam's Club and both parking lots will still have cars in it and neither business will shut down. I assure you. You know what I mean? Like, obviously to a certain degree, because you have to think about population and demand and blah, blah, blah. But it's functionally one of those, you can have a direct competitor that literally has everything about you but your logo. And you can still win because of who they target or where they place their store or what they carry or blah, blah, blah. And here we see the next shining example, which is, hey, you can always learn from your competitors, especially the ones that are very similar to you. Like, hey, they launched a brand. Why can't we launch a brand? It's Uber, or, Uber sees DoorDash. And again, it's an indirect, but still makes sense. Hey, they're delivering food and we're delivering people. Why don't we just have our people deliver food? It's like, bingo. You can learn from these things and integrate it. Again, as long as it's not patented, and even if it is, you can often get creative.
Since consolidating, Sam's Club private label sales have nearly doubled. And when asked about its strategy shift, Sam's Club said in an email to the Wall Street Journal that one reason it simplified its products into a single brand was to reduce confusion for its members. But despite these successes, many big retailers aren't following Costco's lead. Target and Walmart have multiple private label brands.
They have to make that choice themselves. I mean, the choice, we think, in retrospect, was right for us. But it could have been wrong.
I think there's something also specific to like the club channel, like a Costco, Sam's Club. You pay a membership fee. So it's a little bit of a different environment. You're a little bit more bought in.
Right there. I'm not going to make any judgments about Walmart Americans, given I absolutely am one as well. I'm a third culture kid. I go everywhere where the rich people go and where the poors like me have gone. So it's very much when you go to Costco, there's a certain quality, a certain standard, kind of like, a bit of Target in your life. In the same way you go to Walmart, you're trying to get in and get out and not make eye contact. So when it comes to that, it shouldn't surprise you, right? Mind you, they have different goals, different focuses, et cetera. Even companies that both distribute products, right, and are retailers in that way, it doesn't mean that they have the same, internal identification of goals and et cetera, et cetera. But clearly there's probably some decisions being made. Maybe certain signature brands or, certain in-house brands created by Walmart are performing really well. And I would guess there are others that either aren't performing well or there's a lot of uncertainty about. So therefore, why would they put all this risk into, hey, why are we going to put all this risk into one brand when we can keep it separate and people are still buying? And if the, shitty brand goes under, who cares? Now, here comes that old benefit that Costco has, where they've been an expert in selecting for quality and clearly doing advantageous business deals. So when it came to them unifying, it's still a huge risk, but you can see how much less risk there was. It's about de-risking. Most people think that you can get rid of 100% of the risk, or they have that kind of concept in their head that if it's not riskless, it's not worth it. But the truth is, for like the average business person that's making decisions on the day to day, it's not about what's riskless. It's about what's less risky, right? It's about trade-offs. It's about different levers. It's about making sure that you de-risk something as much as you can, knowing that the risk can never be zero. But Costco, could lean on their expertise, and clearly that worked out.
Already shown loyalty to what they have to offer in a way that's just a little bit different.
Compared to other mass retailers like Target and Walmart, club channels like Costco and Sam's Club are winning the private label food and beverage space, shown in their growth over the last year.
No
We still wanna
surprises.
sell name
Everybody loves
brands. We think
Costco.
that shows value to the membership. So we really use Kirkland Signature strategically to make sure that we're priced correctly on brands and that we're offering a better quality.
And the revenue from Kirkland is set to rise as the company looks to expand its offerings like Kirkland Sushi to its U.S. stores.
I don't want to push our employees or our managers and our buyers to go out and hit quotas about number of Kirkland items I want developed out there. I want them to do it naturally as they go through their categories and look for those opportunities.
We don't need to put our name on a product.
Patience is a virtue. Notice, even with corporate, again, I don't assume anybody's running a for-profit business for charity. If you want to have a charity, have a charity. But it's like, even in corporate greed land, where the goal is always make more money, expand, grow, etc., you can have principles that seem like they may cost you money. Notice lack of sales quotas and lack of, number of products that need to be integrated and created in terms of under the Kirkland brand. That could probably drive some sales in the short term to the midterm. But can you imagine if the quotas make the sales process a worse experience for the customer? Or the product creation led to products being on an average of 8 out of 10 quality or 9 out of 10 quality to 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. What do you think that does for brand value? I assure you, you've seen this. If Costco did that and brand value suffered, or customer experience with, everyday Kirkland products suffered, what we'd see? We'd see articles everywhere talking about, has Costco fallen off? What happened to global, once beloved, retailer giant Costco? Consumers today are furious that their pizza came with half the amount of cheese, or this product doesn't work half as good. It's like, yeah, because they know their brand value is so associated with quality. They want people to be able to walk in and effectively be able to grab everything and anything off the shelf and be like, even if you don't like this is a good quality product. Like, you can hate golf, but we have good golf balls. You can, oh boy. And I think that's such a huge advantage for them.
Just to put our name, it's a lot of work.
In fact, every Kirkland product ever made since 1995 has been signed off by the CEO directly.
The final approval on the products would come to me, and I would initial it in green ink. Those were known as green ink meetings because they got the green ink to proceed. It was as simple as that.
To this
Very
day,
nice.
Costco still holds green ink meetings for all final approvals, even though that pen color is now retired.
I think I'm probably the only person that writes in green around here.
Well done. Green for cash, green for growth, green for Costco.